Oh boy, we got a good one today. So this is a laptop that is such a big generational leap from the previous stuff that this is most likely faster than the gaming desktop that you have at home. It's incredibly powerful. So this is the new MSI GE76, and what makes it so special and so powerful is three things. Number one, it's running Intel's new 12th gen Alder Lake laptop CPUs. Two, it's running NVIDIA's new RTX 3080 Ti. These are both the fastest components you can get out there right now for laptops. And three, MSI has a new phase change liquid metal to cool this thing. It's a compound that'll transition between a solid form and a liquid form, and it helps to keep the temperatures down in the system. So let's start off with the CPU first. These new CPUs are incredibly fast. So over the past couple of years, we've seen some chips from AMD and Apple that were designed to compete with Intel stuff, and it's just been so much better than what Intel's had to offer. And I've been recommending AMD's chips instead of Intel's for gaming laptops for a while. But this year, Intel just came out swinging super hard. This new laptop chip is so fast, it's nutty. It honestly destroys the previous generation of mobile chips. It beats AMD's 5000 series stuff. It beats Apple stuff. It's just super fast. It's faster than most Intel and AMD desktops. Now, it does run DDR5 memory, and it's hard to tell how much of that performance bump comes from the memory versus the actual chip itself. But based on what I've seen with desktop versions of this stuff, it's Alder Lake's chips that are doing most of the heavy lifting. The DDR5 memory is nice, but because they have different pin layouts on the memory modules, I can't just swap out the DDR5 with DDR4 to test. Now, this is a CPU that has 14 cores. It's got 6 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores, and the system will designate the different core activity based on what you're trying to do. So if you're playing games or using apps that can take advantage of lots of cores and fast cores, this is going to be a big generational leap from the previous stuff. Now, we need to talk about heat and energy consumption in a bit. We'll get there, but I want to talk about the GPU first because it all kind of ties in. So this is also running a new graphics component. It's the RTX 3080 Ti, which MSI is feeding 175 watts in this system. Now, this machine comes with a ridiculously fast 360 Hz 1080p panel. It's a gaming screen, like a competitive gaming screen. It's a very fluid display. Now, games are obviously going to run faster with this new CPU and GPU combination, right? Sometimes we're getting performance bumps that are fairly significant, other times less so. It really depends on the game, but there's a couple of things you should keep in mind. Number one, lower resolution gaming is always going to lean more heavily on the CPU. So you're going to see the biggest gains there. But secondly, I don't have access to other devices with these components in it, right? So I can't really tell how much of those gains are coming from the CPU or from the GPU itself. It's kind of hard to gauge at this point. We'll have to see more reviews down the line. Now, when I take a look at creative workflows, this laptop is an incredible performer. It's fast with 3D work. It's super fast with video work. Like the render times that I got out of this machine were the fastest I've ever seen in a laptop. Like this can almost keep up with that machine back there, that desktop. That's a 12900K with a 3080 Ti. I built it a couple months ago, super fast machine. This is not that far off from that performance. It's kind of wild. Now, I will say one thing. If you compare this to the M1 Max equipped MacBook Pro, the MacBook has better playback performance in Adobe Premiere. Apple's M1 Max has an awesome media playback engine and outperforms everything out there, including desktops. But in terms of render time, this thing just crushes what Apple has to offer right now. But the elephant in the room is energy consumption. So on a device like this, you have to wonder, how are they pulling it off? How are they able to get such amazing scores? And well, the big thing is energy. It's feeding a lot of watts to that chip. And like all CPUs, the more wattage you give it, the more heat it'll give off. So with max wattage and max fan speed, you get the best possible performance. It's loud, but you get big numbers. But if you set the system to the balance mode, which is a much quieter system and much more energy efficient setting, this still gives you amazing performance. That is where the impressive numbers are, in that balance mode where you get great performance without any of the heat and noise and high energy consumption that previous generations of Intel chips required. So I want to move this conversation over to battery life because I did a slightly more extensive battery testing with this device than I do normally because it's a whole new architecture, right? What does Intel's 12th gen chip do for battery? So, okay, when you do my regular loops, like just website loops, it's decent battery life, but only a little bit better than last year's model. And the same would apply for streaming. If you compare it to previous generation stuff, it's similar and kind of to be expected. But where I did notice a difference was when you push the system hard. Like if you're playing games or you're doing any kind of application and you're not plugged in, you get a significant bump up in battery life than the previous 11th gen stuff. Now, I don't know how much of that is because of Intel's new chip, or if it's because MSI made some tweaks between last year's model and this year, and they were somehow able to optimize the energy use. I'm not entirely sure, but there is a noticeable difference between this model and last year's model. But if I had to guess, it is that chip. It's just a little more energy efficient when you push the system hard. Now, it's not as energy efficient as Apple's M1 Max and M1 Pro products. These are like the kings of efficiency, but this delivers top end performance as well. Like if you want the best possible performance, throw in the wattage, cool it properly, and you get crazy numbers. You get desktop numbers. It's that good. Apple can't do that. AMD can't do that. I don't even think their new stuff will be able to do it, but this is an amazing, amazing performer. Now, I want to wrap this up with a conversation about this device itself. So Intel could have asked any OEM out there, any manufacturer to be like, hey, we want to showcase this 12th gen chip, make us a device. They could have chosen anyone, but they went with this. And I think they did it for a reason. So it's not about a system where it just shows the top end performance. Like obviously they could have just gotten a laptop company and be like, hey, we want to stick in this new chip in it, cool it aggressively, show the greatest numbers. They could have done that. But what I think MSI does really well, really, really well, is they have a system that can do that at the top end, but their balance mode is so nicely tuned. Like it's quiet, it's got great performance, and you saw the numbers. This is a really good showcase of what this chip can and should do in a properly tuned system. And I think not just what Intel's done, but I think what MSI's done in this system is fantastic. I've always been partial to this thing. Like I love the RGB light bar. It's kind of silly, but this is such a unique looking RGB system. You look up close, it looks like there's a fluid inside here. Like the color shifting, it's awesome. I like the keyboard. I really like the super fast screens. I like the layouts of like the ports and stuff. Great system from MSI. But I think the big winner here is Intel. They did an awesome job this year. And I'm excited to see what Intel does with the rest of their lineup. Like what does their mid-tier or even lower end mobile chip look like? Because this is promising. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.